Why do we need exotic currency pairs and why it might be better than liquid pairs?
I think for variety is one important factor, and also just to have more exposure to lots of different markets. And I think definitely no correlation is always 100% reliable. There's always, I think, some benefit to an exotic pair, even if it's usually strongly correlated.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Trading Talks. My name is Stanislav Bernukhov. I'm a senior trading content specialist at Exness. And today we have Michael Stock, financial content leader. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Stan.
Today we will talk about Forex pairs, exotic versus majors. And we will try to figure out whether it makes sense to consider exotic pairs for trading, maybe any other instruments. So Michael, what's your approach? Do you ever trade exotic pairs? Or have you traded that before? Maybe any other instruments?
Nowadays, no, I almost never trade exotics, but in the past I used to trade them quite a lot. Because initially what got me into CFDs was the carry trade. So of course, at the time, in 2014, 2015, most of the years before COVID, then the highest carries could usually, although obviously the highest risk as well, could be found usually from exotic pairs.
So in the past, as you say, you used to trade some exotic pairs. If yes, which exactly did you focus on? Maybe you look into something now?
At the time, probably mostly Euro-Lira, so Euro against Turkish Lira, Euro-Tri. And one of the main reasons that I used to like that, particularly around 2017, 2018, was that, of course, still has a strong trend now. But back then, you could actually also trade it, and it had a very strong trend. Like in 2017, it was just like shooting up and up and up. Everything against the Lira was going up and up and up. And the fundamentals were obviously really strong and supportive. And then in around summertime 2018-ish is when it really came into its own as a carry trade for me, because they replaced the head of the Turkish central bank, started to hike rates, started to push back against these, nonsense, basically policies that the president was talking about, and hike rates enormously. So it paid a huge carry, and also that it moved in a downtrend for a while, Euro-Lira, Dollar-Lira, Lira. And also experimented to some degree with the Rand, with the Ruble. And of these, only really the Ruble you can actually trade now with most brokers, including Exness, but doesn't really hold that much appeal for me anymore.
So I think that maybe some interesting set of tools or instruments which you can use is in metals group right now, because metals are really trending. So for example, platinum, palladium, they are not quite popular, but sometimes they make really good technical moves. So do you think it makes sense in today's markets?
Yeah, I think to some extent it makes sense, because one of the things is, for me anyway, one of the things is you have more options with the many exotic pairs as to what is the base. So when you talk about metals, of course, traditionally, the Rand is a commodity currency. It has a degree of correlation with precious metals, right? But with gold, you can effectively, for practical purposes, you can only really trade gold against the US dollar. You can trade it against other currencies, but it's going to be doing more or less exactly the same thing almost all the time. Whereas the Rand, against a range of different currencies, it might be going in different directions at different times. So that's a potential opportunity, because you've got, apart from just dollar Rand, you've also got Rand Yen, you've got Euro Rand, for example, and all of these currencies have their own different fundamentals, which I think is one important factor. And another important factor, I think, is that the point profit, or the profit per point, whatever you want to call it, is usually going to be lower. So for gold, even a very small trade, potentially it could lead to quite a significant loss or gain, if you're assuming you have the right technical placement for stop and target, whereas that's less so, is usually, anyway, less true even for exotic Forex pairs.
Yeah, gold, however, I think it's quite noisy, right?
Yes.
Because, for example, if you take some, let's say, exotic instruments from a metals group, let's take palladium, for example, platinum, better platinum. So if it trends, I've noticed that it often trends with substantially less amount of noise than gold. So yes, it's make rare trends. But when it's trending, so it goes bar by bar, candlestick by candlestick. So for position traders, I think that might be actually quite a good idea to try to trade it when it triggers what flashes the signal.
Yes. I would agree. And same for currencies, same for things like, it was always a good idea to have in your platform, in your MT5 Exness platform, whichever one you want to use, to keep these exotic charts open and just look at them every now and then. Because for me, the main pairs that I'm actually trading on a weekly basis is going to be euro dollar, of course, cable, dollar yen, pound yen, and so on and so forth, all of these majors that have quite high volume. But I'm also definitely looking at pairs with the rand, pairs with Mexican peso. I'm looking at indicative charts for other exotic pairs as well. I'm just not really actually jumping in and trading them unless I see a particularly good opportunity.
So I think that the main feature of exotic pairs is that the spread might be slightly higher, right, in comparison to liquid instruments. Do you think it's justifiable? Or it's just more trading costs, which doesn't make sense for many traders?
But I think it's justifiable in that, it's sometimes quite difficult to get the pricing. Because something like, for example, Euro Rand, well, it's just not that popular, man. Like, it was just not that many people who are trading it.
In South Africa, it is popular.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in South Africa, it would be fairly popular. But I'm talking globally, internationally, right? It's just not a particularly popular instrument. And depending upon how you would define it, how you would define exotic, things like, for example, pound, Norwegian krone. It
is exotic.
Volume. Yes, it's exotic. Okay, good. We can agree on that. It's like, it just has like such low volume that, the broker, they still, need to de-risk this somewhat by having a spread. And I think what I do, usually when it came in the past to selecting who am I going to trade this with, is just compare all the different spreads between different brokers. You're not going to find, at the time, at least you weren't going to find a zero spread. So I would just see which one is like broadly reasonable and combine that with execution.
So what I can also add here for those traders who would like to make a deeper research on a specific instrument, so the situation that it's not liquid or it's not that popular like gold, for example, sometimes it gives some opportunities because it might move, after the group or maybe slightly with some delay, let's say, and that might give you slight edge or some alpha when you just can get prepared to get into the trade. And of course, not many instruments are for day traders, right? For example, the Platinum, which I mentioned, is not for day traders because of the spread. And many exotic pairs also, I think they have twice more spread, maybe 2 to 3 times, maybe greater spread than Euro USD or any other popular instruments. So yeah, you got to consider your strategy. Which strategy are you actually using? I think that is the main question.
Yeah, that definitely is an important question. I think it's just hopelessly impractical to scalp most exotic pairs. It's just not going to work for loads of different reasons. It's a way better thing to position or swing trade. But I think you're right about that edge. I definitely think that one other important edge for many exotic currencies is knowing the local news better than many other people do. Because for things like the Rand in particular, a lot of people, they just don't, traders specifically I'm thinking about, they just don't have any updates on political circumstances or economic data apart from the very high level ones in South Africa. Whereas if somebody is living in South Africa or nearby or visits there often and has their ear to the ground in terms of this stuff, regularly does this research, that could be a massive edge, I think.
Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing your experience in this domain.
That's fine. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you for watching this episode. By the way, if you want to know more about this topic, so click the link in the description and you will find the article with a related topic so you can read it and know more about that.